Now this is buffer time. Respect.
What is buffer time? Is what buffer time?
Hello, buffer timers. We're going to try a thing today as we wind down for our last episode before summer break until Strange New Worlds comes out. So before we talk a little bit about Strange New Worlds and whatever this mystery dice rolled episode that we get is, let's introduce ourselves clockwise. I'm Dustin from Best of Trek, Worst of Trek.
I'm Vanessa, and I read a YouTube channel called I Love Bad Star Trek.
You read it?
Hello, I'm Shereese. I have a YouTube channel called The Sci-Fi Savage and the same on all the socials.
Hello, I'm Ren. I have a YouTube channel called Ren Rants.
And I'm Scott of the YouTube channel Opinions No One Cares About.
And hello, Nadia. Wingrace is having some technical issues today.
Yeah.
So, we're going to start. There was a new trailer. I hope everybody's seen it for Strange New Worlds. It dropped a couple of days ago. Honestly, and I like this. This is the first trailer we've gotten in a while for something before it comes out that I'm like, I don't feel like I know exactly what's going to happen in the season. They really did a good job of mashing up some random fun things, and I have no idea in what order it goes together. But we're going to try. Well, actually, but first we're gonna play this game. Thank you, Scott. My wife even wanted me to congratulate you on this wonderful put together for rolling to figure out what out of 900 something episodes of Star Trek we can talk about.
So the things I do when I'm supposed to be looking.
Don't let your boss hear that.
Right.
But hopefully they don't watch the show.
Vanessa, do you have access to a D12, a 12-sided die?
Indeed.
Oh, never mind.
Hang on. Okay. So go ahead and roll.
Yeah, go ahead and roll.
I got a 1.
TOS.
TOS.
Okay.
All right. Well, this could go any way from here.
I'm already out.
Scott.
Yeah.
I'm out.
Right. Okay, yeah. TOS.
Well,
so
if it comes up to be
seasons.
ones we've already done, we might end up re-rolling this. So hang on.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, Scott. So the next thing that you have here is to roll a D6 to figure out the season.
Yep. Yes. 1 or a 4 for season 1, 2 or 5 for season 2, 3 or 6 for season 3. We'll see if this thing even bounces, because seriously, I'm swearing these dice are made of metal. That's a 3. Season 3.
Oh, shit.
Yep. Okay. So this is going to be an absolutely terrible thing that we probably end up talking about, unless it's one of like 2 episodes. So within that, Ren, where...
It's a D20 and a D4.
A D20 and a D4.
All right, as you wish.
And add the numbers together.
18 and 3, 21.
So, TOS, Season 3, Episode 21 is The Cloudminders. I know this one off the top of my head. Does anybody else, or do we want to re-roll?
When you said TOS, I was already out. So if you guys want to continue, I'm happy to hop into the chat or just sit here and do this for the next hour.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm happy to use
if 2 of you don't know it, then let's go again. So then, Shereese, roll me a D12.
Oh, can I add an addendum to that?
12.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, I wanted to make a quick change to that particular rule. I thought maybe instead of doing nothing and re-rolling, if it's a 12, roller's choice for series.
Oh,
Okay.
hey, Shereese. Yeah, there you go. What are we doing?
We're doing TNG.
Okay, you're off the hook. And we haven't done, there's only a couple episodes we've done in TNG, so we shouldn't need another reroll. Vanessa, go ahead and roll a D8. An 8-sided die.
Ooh, season 4. It's gonna be a good one.
Oh, okay. 4. Then. So Scott, what is that? Just you need 22.
That's a
D12.
D20 and a 6.
Okay. Yep, that makes sense.
Code of
Okay,
honor.
now-
But thankfully, that was season 1, and we're already in season
Yeah.
4. So a third.
Yeah, okay. And that's gonna be episode 15.
Okay. 4, 15. It's usually the middle is usually a Loxana Troy episode. Oh no, okay. Oh, I love this. This is great. We're gonna do First Contact,
Yay!
Awesome.
That great
Right.
episode.
where Riker ends up incapacitated on a planet where he's
Oh, that's right.
gathering information about First Contact.
He
It's
gets
got
hit on by his doctor, right?
It's got my
He gets-
favorite recurring
yeah.
actress,
He-
Carolyn Seymour.
Trades a sexual
Yeah.
favor for freedom and is captured 30 seconds later. That one.
For anyone
It
else
was
that's
broken.
questionable, for Riker, it's a breeze.
I've
thought
got
about it
this
for a
listed
second.
as one of the episodes I would recommend to somebody if they'd never seen an episode of Star Trek and they just want to watch something
Yeah.
random. Because I mean, it teaches you about the Prime Directive. There's
Yeah.
a lot going on. But before we get to that part of the show, there's been the drop of the Strange New Worlds trailer. And I'm going to put up, while I get some questions and some pictures going, and all of you talk about what you think the episodes are going to be about for this upcoming Strange New World season. Obviously, starting with the Part 2, Hegemony, Part 2.
Oh no!
Oh, there it is.
I feel like I just need to go
Ah,
open up YouTube.
So I am not caught up on my Strange New Worlds. Have no opinion about any of these, except for that they're very long titles. So there's that.
Hegemony Part 2 is a gimme since we know it's going to be the end of the Gorn fight.
That seemed to be a lot of that in the trailer.
Yeah. Which makes sense. That's the one that's the least, like, we don't know what it's going to be about.
It does seem like we're going to find out that Patel is still alive at the end of this, but I guess we'll see what that means.
It seems like a given because isn't she in the trailer for season 3?
Yes, and it looks like it's, not her in distress from having Gorn eggs in her head.
Right.
That sounds disgusting.
It's
I like
really
the title
bad.
of episode 7. What is Starfleet? I wonder if they're going to do like a deep dive into some, some prequely value system for Starfleet, or if
Right.
it's just like they meet some new alien or something and it's like, oh, what is Star? You know what I mean? I'm curious where they're going to go with that.
I wonder do we think Wedding Bell Blues might have something to do with the fallout from Spock's romantic life and his ill-fated engagement?
I think on a previous trailer there was some appearance of a new romantic interest, and it was straight to like a bed scene.
Wow.
Kurzman Trek loves a bed scene.
It does. Oh my god, it really does.
Yes.
Shuttle to Kenfori.
Cool.
Ooh, I wonder if that's going to be like an Uhura thing.
Through the
was
lens of
hoping-
time sounds like something I would like. I'm hoping it's like a time loopy episode.
There was a scene in the trailer, or some clip in the trailer, where it showed Pike telling Kirk about decisions on the bridge, and I'm guessing that has something to do with it. I don't know if we really need that. We have TOS. We know what kind of captain Kirk is. Why Pike has to tutor him. I don't get it. Anyways.
I bet a space adventure hour is the holodeck one.
That
or
would be so
whatever
fun.
that was supposed to be.
Ooh, I wonder if it'll be kind of like a Bride of Chaotica style thing where they do like an old school sci-fi mystery.
Well, in the first trailer, wasn't it like a PI kind of a thing, like a private eye?
It did seem
Am I
either
misremembering
I
the trailer?
watched the first trailer and I fully don't remember it.
Oh, okay. I thought I remember some. Maybe Wingrace remembers because he did a full breakdown of that trailer. But I thought it was some kind of like murder mystery thing.
What is surprising
You
to
are
me
correct,
is
Anna.
that there would
Should have
be,
kept the mystery there.
yeah. Is there a holodeck canonized in Strange New Worlds? Because TOS certainly doesn't have one. They tried
TAS has the Rec Room, which is
Right,
like a
they-
less advanced holodeck.
right,
Yeah.
and that was, and then Gene was like really adamant about TAS not being canon. So I'm like, why would they even have a holodeck episode?
That's a
How
good
would that
point.
even work?
Because holodecks are cool.
Right, but they don't have one. They shouldn't have one. That's not a technology they have yet.
I did think that
Or-
because I asked that question when we started our podcast. I was like, did they even have this in TOS? And they were like, no, that's why it was so cool in TNG. And they kept doing, so much in season 1 with the holodeck.
Mhm.
But
I kept
it-
thinking the first time I saw that first trailer was that maybe that's one of the like two here that are possibly like a time jump thing, and like maybe Uhura and Spock go to the future, and then they try out a holodeck.
oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, Nadia said in the comments that maybe it'll be they
Right.
jump to 2025 just to irritate me. That would in fact irritate me quite a bit. So I hope they don't do that. I hope they're not like our time travel is to the
They went to the
present.
present last season.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll copy Doctor Who and they'll go to an alternate dimension where Star Trek is a TV show, and then they'll watch an episode of Star Trek.
That's like when Homer Simpson went to the alternate dimension where he's like in reality and he's like a 3D person.
3D.
That was really
Oh,
disturbing.
They did that in Supernatural also. It was great.
And yes, Saint G, not even just when they go to the 32nd century, but they did some training simulations, some like tactical simulations on Discovery.
Yeah.
That's true.
With
Yeah,
some,
like-
holo technology.
They're supposed to have like a super advanced ship.
Right. Like I can understand Disco playing fast and loose with canon, but Strange New World's entire sort of thing is like being,
Slow and
I know
tight
mom.
with canon.
so it's an odd choice.
Okay. No spoilers for Doctor Who for Nadia, who just started Doctor Who today. So exciting. But there is time travel. That's not that much of a spoiler.
Yeah, it's Doctor Who.
The
I've-
occasional
Yeah, and Star Trek has
seen
space
Doctor
travel,
Who.
but no spoilers.
I know that.
I mean, that yeah. Yeah, the TARDIS is not bound by any thing, any
Physics.
dimension. Yeah.
Yes, by
Only
science
by
or
wibbly
physics or
wobbly timey wimey stuff.
logic or anything like that. It's more like emotion. It
It's
runs on
sci
emotion.
fantasy, like 100%.
Yeah, I
Very-
like we travel by vibes. That's how I would like
Well,
to
no,
describe
like
it.
yeah, like half the aliens are like a vibe. They're like a concept more so than just like an alien.
Missed opportunity. I wish Capaldi would have said that. It travels by vibes. While he's like wearing the glasses. Well,
With the
maybe
glasses,
next Doctor. But there was something to what Vanessa was actually saying about Star Trek before I got distracted by Doctor Who. Oh yeah, Wingrace's thing about it being a prototype holodeck. So that's
And-
that's
and
the way
by
that
the way-
they work around.
Even though
TOS not
Wingrace is not with us, he's done on his channel at Wingrace Project a breakdown of this where he's got his own theories about what happens here. Honestly, this
Yeah,
is
I
the
theorized
first
on that
set of
comment.
episodes that we've gotten that I don't really have a feel for, like, oh, well, this is going to be this one, and this is going to do this. The one thing that I'm going to make a prediction is that Jonathan Frakes has come out and said months and months ago that he feels like what he did in this Strange New World season is the best thing he's ever directed. And that says a lot. I'm going to surmise that he's attached to a space adventure hour. Whatever that is, I bet it's going to be a hell of a lot of fun.
I am excited.
That is a grandiose announcement considering he directed Those Old Scientists last season.
Mm-hmm. which is why I think being one of the more outrageous ones last season, that he's probably going to be like, I feel like this title is going to be like Tom Paris and Harry Kim in the holodeck and Captain Proton, but I honestly have no idea.
I want it.
All right, any more Strange New World stuff after we've spent like a quarter of our time on it, or would we like to talk about the episode we rolled?
So the pilot or the weapons officer is shown to have her brother on the Enterprise, and Uhura is apparently like flirting or something. And I wonder what that is about. Maybe that's a B plot. I don't know. Maybe it's not strong enough to carry an episode, but it's intriguing. Ortega's brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm also anxious to find out where Patton Oswalt fits into all of this. I am betting it's probably not going to be 4.5 Vulcans, but the Salot that ate its tail is where we're going to get him.
Oh my gosh, I'm
I feel
excited.
like 4.5 Vulcans is the only one we can actually predict because of the thing from the first trailer where everyone became a Vulcan and no one liked it.
So the fabric choice for the outer vest is hideous, but the design is so cool.
Mhm.
Sure.
Dustin, I'm sure you can appreciate that too, being someone who sews. Like the
I do. I
seams
like
and the
it a lot.
piping and that soft, shiny fabric. Perfection.
In
They did an amazing
general,
job.
a thing that Strange New Worlds has done incredibly well has been the uniforming and the costuming. I honestly think Strange New Worlds has done the best in that category of all the
Yeah,
tracks.
that's so good.
I
Everything.
really love Discovery, but like I said, I don't have enough Strange New Worlds episodes under my belt. But everything I saw in Discovery from every character, I would absolutely wear. Good guys, bad
It was
guys,
gorgeous,
aliens.
honestly. Like, it has lots of problems, but like its aesthetics were generally not one of them. Other than being too dark, but they got over that.
All
I
right, so
really
getting-
enjoy Patton Oswalt in that trailer too. Like that silly high five thing. It's made for a trailer, right? It's really made to be cut into that sort of thing. And it's almost like it was made with that in mind as a highlight because it's taken completely out of context, but it was cute. I liked it.
I said to my wife when we watched it, like, that dad joke wouldn't have landed with most people, but somehow, because it's Patton Oswalt, it lands. It really does. I like that. But yeah, we've eaten up like almost 20 minutes just talking about Strange New Worlds. So there's like this whole episode that we rolled for like 15 or so minutes ago.
Well,
and
technically, we ate up 10 minutes rolling, so I think
it was
it's fair.
TNG's first contact for anybody just joining us.
We're just gearing up for our July Yap Fests, which will undoubtedly be out of control in the best way.
I hope so. It seems like there's at least a lot to talk about. Good, bad, indifferent. I don't think there's going to be an indifferent. But yeah, so let's start with the most reused matte painting in Trek history. Keeps getting,
Love a good matte
little
painting.
things added and changed in the background just to freshen it up. But it's good old Angel 1 at its heart.
It's great. I love it. I like the weird building shapes that look like buildings, but weird. I feel like they nailed that.
You do need your buildings to look like buildings.
It's got the
Nice.
classic Trek trope of plastic surgery to fit in with the logo.
One of my favorites, honestly. I love their cosmetic disguises. They're so
Yeah.
fun.
It's strangely enough, as corny as that
What do they call
that
them?
premise looks on its face, it's usually pretty successful.
It's great. It's fun. The whole Lower Decks episode where they all got surgically altered, and they were like, yes, we're finally getting to do it. It was just
So good.
like that episode. You're just like, this encapsulates the emotion of all of the episodes where they get surgically altered. You're just like, all of this. So I think that was did it look super cute? No, but it was a very interesting alien look. I love the blending in with the locals idea. How unfortunate that he ended up in the hospital. Like, that's the one thing you want to avoid because that wasn't much of blending. But it did set up this interesting idea of we've captured an alien and we have proof because he's literally on floor 5 right now and all his organs are wrong and his digits are wrong and like everything going
He's
on
really
is
interested
wrong.
in his fingers.
Yeah,
Polite of them not to immediately dissect him, really.
And I think the only reason they didn't immediately dissect him is because the person in charge of the hospital or whatever didn't want to start a panic and didn't want to be known as the alien hospital. So he was like, he's just a mutant that we just don't understand. Now, nobody say anything to anyone. If he wasn't so concerned with his reputation, this would have been a much different storyline.
It also, like, the fact that it's a nurse that's the one that's trying to have sex with him is even more disgusting because it's like he's sort of like, you know, unconscious in the hospital. It's like, what is she doing? It's so
like, that's a very hot, injured man I see. Maybe I'll take a little advantage of him.
It's so funny in rewatching this episode. It was clear that it was supposed to be comic relief, right? It's supposed to be like, oh my gosh, how funny is this? This is like the funniest thing ever. And maybe it was in the 90s, but it doesn't hold up. You know, it's what my co-host says, aged like milk. It's like that, where you're like, probably at the time it was like, oh, this is hilarious, keep it coming. And then now you watch and you're like, ew, everything about this is really uncomfortable. He's like an alien stranded in this hospital. He's got internal injuries. They're trying to dissect him or send the government or something. And she's like, well, hey, I know how to get out of this place. If you could do something for me, I could do something for you. And then she doesn't even follow through with that promise.
Yeah.
And like, he is a freak. Riker's a freak. He's like constantly trying to have sex with every sentient being that he comes in contact with. He's a freak. But like, he would
exactly. And they were thinking about this from that angle. Like, this time he didn't even have to try.
But he was like unconscious, and they were like seeing his body and inspecting it. So that's really gross. That's really gross.
And he wouldn't do this to somebody as much as he's down to hook up.
Exactly.
He would never. If the roles were reversed, he would never do that.
Horny.
So anyways, that's not actually what the episode's about. That's just my hang up about the part that I like the absolute least about this entire episode. What the episode is about is that these people are almost ready to make first contact. They're like days away from warp. And for some reason, Picard et al. Doesn't want to wait until that moment. They're doing some recon. So that way when they do go out into the world, they can have some background info, which I guess is going to make them less scary being aliens. I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure the thinking behind sending Riker, but that was it. Some kind of recon that goes horribly wrong, and then they have to push their timetable up. And unfortunately, all of their actions leads the government, who was already like, the people were already kind of fishy about this whole explore space situation. But this was an inciting incident that showed them that the people weren't ready. So unfortunately, it kind of like took them like several steps back away from first contact.
I was like that guy, the leader of the planet, or whatever.
Like, political tensions and machinations in this episode are honestly really good. In terms of like, she knows there's aliens and is trying to cover it up, and they know there's aliens and now are using it to like exploit public panic. It's really solid.
But yeah, Riker's a freak.
So it's not a thing that Riker's penis destroyed their future or something. That's just ancillary.
No,
he didn't literally fuck the future.
The subdermal sensors wasn't a thing till Discovery, probably for this reason.
How would this have played out if Geordi had been? Go ahead, Scott. Because I just wanted to swap Riker.
Oh, it was just that comment. When we were saying Shereese, there's this like one episode of TOS, I believe it's Patterns of Force, where right before Kirk and Spock go down to the Nazi planet, they have like subdermal. They're not communicators; they're like transponders, so they know where they are. Mm-hmm. And even then, I was like, well, why don't they have these like all the time?
Oh, it's one of those technologies that they designed and then completely forgot about for reasons. Got it. Okay. And then remembered like 1,000 years later. They're like, this would be really helpful.
It's for the convenience of the plot this week, not necessarily next week or next series, but yes.
Nadia asked such a good question. Okay, let's put a pin in that though. Yes, so let's put a pin in that for a second because I did want to talk about right before that, like the little intermediary part. So the scientist who is, I forget her thing. Maybe she's the one doing warp drive. I don't know. For whatever reason, this is the person that Picard makes contact with, like head scientist lady. And she is like, this is so exciting. There's aliens. Like, let's explore everything, right? And the guy who's in charge of everything is like, well, I mean, he seems kind of two minds. He's not opposed to meeting the aliens, but he's also under a lot of political pressure. And then what's his face? Mm-hmm. The main like guy who's against
Minister of Defense or whatever.
Okay, Minister of Defense. I was like, I don't know his thing either. Okay, yeah. So the Minister of Defense is like, these aliens are a threat. They're coming to hurt us in some way, which we can't really judge him because all of our alien movies, we react the same way. Like it's always the aliens are the bad guys coming to hurt us. So he's like, we have to get these aliens out of here. We cannot, they're trying to spy on us because they want to get at us and attack us and all of these things. So really the president of the world just says, it's not worth it. It's not worth a whole upheaval. No one's going to accept these aliens. I'm probably going to get fired and lose my job, which I'm not cool with. And it's just not worth it. Like, we're not going to be able to move forward in any kind of positive way. So we're actually just going to shut the whole program down. We're going to shut down space travel. I think he gives the scientists something like, we'll try again in 30 years. He gives her some kind of like, he throws her some kind of bone. Which, I mean, they're on the brink of a breakthrough. And he's like, give it 30 years and maybe we'll see where the people are at then. And so she's like, no. And then she also kind of can't go back to her normal life because now she knows there's extraterrestrial life out there and there's space travel and all these things. And she can't go back to just like being quiet for the next 30 years. So I don't remember if she asked for asylum or if it's offered, but she ends up going onto the Enterprise for the rest of her days or wherever the Enterprise drops her off at. And so Nadia's question was, would you guys make that choice if you were the head scientist? And my answer is no. I am a scientist and like can kind of feel her pain of like, this is my life's work and it's about to change the whole freaking world. And you want me to stay quiet. And like the thought of that just like hurts my soul. But I could not imagine leaving everyone I know and love behind to go travel with a bunch of people I don't know in any scenario. Like my entire family, all of my friends, everyone I've ever known. Yes, I can make more family or, I can make more chosen family, more friends. I can hook up and have the right shots or injections so I don't get diseases. But like, I couldn't imagine leaving behind my entire planet forever just because they didn't agree with me.
What you just said is a lot of the motivations behind people enlisting in Starfleet at all. They're like, F this, blowing this popsicle stand, I'm getting the hell out of here, Like when Picard talks
for exploration.
Yeah, right. Like they may come home, but that's like, that's in the far-flung future for them to come back. Like Enterprise is on a 5-year mission. They're not planning on coming back to Earth. So it's like, yeah. Yeah.
I absolutely would in a heartbeat. No notes.
I love that you say that and your wife is watching this.
That's what I was going to say. I was gonna say, Lisa, are you down with this? Like you're in the chat. Are you in on this plan?
Like you're going along, right, Lisa?
But they can bring family.
Wow.
I don't think they would give you asylum and be like,
that wasn't part of the question.
Yeah.
Would you leave? And the answer was in a heartbeat. No notes.
Yes.
No addendum.
I would think about it.
Now I can't give any notes. Damn.
I feel like I'm too like I don't like making big decisions. I would have a terrible time deciding whether to go with the cool aliens or be stuck on my like podunk ass planet for the next 30 years with their space travel.
And that would be your choice. You'd have to decide before they leave range.
Yeah,
it would
right.
Be like we've got 3 days.
I feel like I panic and go with them just because I'm afraid to miss the opportunity.
From FOMO. You would go out of FOMO.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fair.
Certainly.
But I guess you would like take your little shuttle back 30 years later and see if like things have changed.
See if you really
Yeah,
did
I mean-
age differently by traveling at warp speed.
I mean, the minister did ask them to come back. What do we think about how the Prime Directive is portrayed to a first contact species here? This is why I feel like it's an episode that you can show to somebody as a first episode that they've ever watched, because one of the key things that you kind of have to understand is the Prime Directive to watch a lot of Star Trek and understand what they base society off of.
They do kind of toe the line with it. It's like, so we have this thing where we're not going to interfere with the development of civilization, but oh, by the way, we did send this guy down in disguise to learn about you. I do feel that kind of like toes the line. Like, obviously, he's not going to try and interfere with anything major, but you don't know. It could happen.
Little who watches the watchers action.
There you go.
They do love doing a hidden human. I do think both in the case of like sending secret humans down and also doing this like small one-on-one meeting with like a, does this guy run the entire planet? I feel like that's kind of crazy, but sure.
Yeah, they always run the entire planet.
Yeah. That's all. That to me, that's always insane. Like, there's no countries anymore. That's one guy runs the whole planet. But anyway,
sometimes one girl.
You either get
sometimes one genderless alien
culture, or you get like Kesprit.
But like,
where there's two separate races that are both terrible.
By only revealing yourself to like that one person, you're gambling on a lot in terms of like how that one person responds to it. Whereas like, I don't know, like revealing yourself like totally in public would also be a bad idea, because yes, it would definitely cause panic. But I feel like the ideal situation would be to like appear before like a board of people or something, where like multiple people can weigh in, as opposed to like just gambling on a single individual's response. But it's definitely like a dicey thing to just imagine at all, really, just like revealing yourselves as aliens to a planet that up to this point has thought they were alone in the universe. That's nuts.
Yeah, I think it's, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, they're essentially forcing the hand of first contact by making it themselves and making it forcing the situation where first contact must be done under the rubrics that we determine. At least the Vulcans, showed up as themselves when they thought they were ready, versus this like weird spy thing with the Hornist first officer in Starfleet. That's weird.
I mean,
But
to be fair, when you get to Carbon Creek and Enterprise, the Vulcans were actually doing that too.
Carbon Creek and Enterprise.
And in Picard.
Right.
Well, Rin has sort of changed my mind, actually, about the whole spying thing. Because to your point of revealing yourself to the planetary leader or to the planetary council or cabinet, there are some things to know about cultural differences, which don't exist that much in Star Trek, because that's like a lot of complicated layers, unless that's the episode. But to see how they would respond to such a thing. Because if a society has a more hierarchical structure, then you would probably need to appeal to the people at the top of the pyramid first. If a society is more like, you do need some more information to know the best way to approach first contact in a way that's not going to be seen as aggressive, or in a way that's going to be most likely to be accepted. So you kind of just gave me more pause for thought about why this kind of recon might actually be helpful before making first contact with a planet.
Nadia brings up a good point here. Troy, why is it that 90% of the episodes for Deanna Troi involve a mind assault? Why isn't she going down on this mission? I mean, she feels like the perfect person to do this mission.
I think she does go down with Picard.
Yeah, I only know that because I looked it up.
But I mean, instead of Riker.
Right, but it should have been her instead of Riker.
Oh,
right.
Like her in disguise. Yeah, that's a good point. Also, we know she kicks ass in disguise from the Tal Shiar episode.
Oh.
And assuming she can read their emotions and stuff, she'd be an asset. I like whoever said in the comments there should be like a committee of people who specialize in this, not just Riker.
Yeah.
Troy
One would
chose to
think.
be in disguise in that episode. Like, it was a great episode and she did the damn thing, but I don't remember that was necessarily her choice.
No, it was not.
wasn't.
That was another
That
assault.
was kidnapped and put in
Yeah.
disguise because of course she was.
Of
And
course.
this
Yeah.
is
Of course
kind
she
of
was.
similar to like O'Brien in DS9 when he's picked to be Starfleet intelligence and bring down the Orion Syndicate. It's like, really? You couldn't find anybody else but a random dude who's like a high profile officer on a major space station, and somehow they're going to be more in disguise than like somebody that you've got trained for deep operations anyway.
I kind of love that it's O'Brien though. Like that just made me smile because of that choice. Where exactly what you said. Like, really, you want to go with O'Brien? I just love that. It reminds me of that episode. I forget the name of it, but it's the one where Spock comes back in TNG, and that one random like Earthling Starfleet person who defected over to the Romulans like comes back to tell them that Spock needs help or whatever. And he was like the least convincing spy. If you look at what this guy looked like, you're just like, who believed this guy was a defector? I mean, he really was, but he looked the least convincing. That's just what you reminded me of, where you're like, wow, Starfleet, wow. Like,
I know, I don't think it's
Unification, part one.
Unification. I don't think it's that one, because Unification is the one where Picard and somebody, I forget exactly who.
Data.
Picard and Data
I
go
think that
down
is
to
the flip side of
Romulans.
Face of the Enemy.
They're
It-
talking about like
I'm not thinking.
somebody who appeared to defect from the Romulan Empire and was beamed aboard the Enterprise. It's a different one. I just can't remember the name either.
Like, I'm pretty sure that is the subplot of Face of the Enemy.
yeah, but the one I'm talking about is
Mhm.
like a Starfleet officer who defected and then came back.
Oh,
I
Ensign.
know which one you're talking about. I just can't think of the name either.
Do you know
That's part of-
he got like he has
That's
blonde
yes,
hair
that's part of
from the-
Face. That's part of Face of the Enemy.
Okay, it is. Okay.
He gives Picard the information to go to whatever system it is that they're
Where
supposed
Troy's
to
been
pick them up
kidnapped.
from the Uridians, but then the
There's
Romulans
an-
destroyed the Uridians, and
Great
it's like a
episode.
whole thing.
Okay, I
It's
thought
Face
you
the
were
Enemy.
talking about there's literally
It
an
looks like
episode
Guy
called The
Gardner.
Defector.
But
I think that
These
episode
is
was called The
the-
Defector.
the spying.
Yeah,
that
the
one.
There is,
defectors
but it's
different. The
an actual one,
defectors when Admiral Jarok from the Romulans
Love that
defects
one.
to the
That's a good one.
Okay,
Federation, and that's also a whole thing.
that makes sense.
So
I kind of wish we were talking about that one. There's more
I love,
pieces
it's
to
such
talk
a great
about.
episode. It's one of my
A little
favorites.
different next time.
These
I think this one's better, but there's not as
Yeah.
much to talk about, honestly. Like, hey, Riker gets Prime Directive, first contact.
the other thing about the like
Xenophobia.
spying mission though is you'd think they would send down like at least 2 people so that they can like help each other and watch each other's backs. Just sending down Riker is kind of insane.
They sent Riker and Troy in Who Watches the Watchers,
Yeah.
right? They did the buddy system.
And they watched each
Just
other's
last season?
backs.
They did. And they did. So I guess it's another
And
piece of-
here
another
he's
strategy for
Troilus and
content.
he gets in a hospital. Like
And I also feel like, can't technology do some of this? I don't know. If you guys are spying, you need
Yeah,
to
like-
physically be like walking around. You don't know the language. You don't know.
they literally have like holodeck technology and like long distance probes. They can't like plant a camera somewhere.
Is there like I understand that, you know, they wanted to observe about to be a warp capable civilization, but I'm just like, why didn't they just wait for these folks to make the first contact on their own? Why did they?
Well, Picard explains that it's like, all right, well, when you get out in deep space, then just randomly run into somebody. That's
Yeah.
it kind of gets weird.
Alarming.
And at least here, they get to choose who they're going to contact rather
Okay.
than, all right, well, now we're forced to make contact with these astronauts.
Oh, our first
rather
contact
than like
is the
somebody who might
Cardassian.
have more like diplomatic flair. You know what I mean?
I
Did he
gotcha.
also pitch them Starfleet? Was he like, you guys should join the Federation so we can introduce you to the bestest of the aliens? You can avoid the ones we don't like.
Because the guy was like, and how much control are you going to have over us? I'm like, no, not that much. Don't worry.
Yeah, it's like I would think like Federation and Federation membership would be a much more drawn out thing. Maybe I'm
It is.
deep
Picard's just laying the first
DS9.
steps.
Yeah, yeah. Because it's like clearly
join us
these folks are
eventually
pretty
when you're
regressive.
ready.
Yeah, it's kind of weird from both sides, right? Because Picard's like very comfortable meeting new cultures and civilizations, and he's like, all right, here we go, let me pull out the manual. But these people are like, what the heck is going on right now? Wait, there's one of you in our hospital? Wait, what? How long have you been spying on us? Oh, you're not spying, you're doing research. Okay, we're gonna call it research. Okay. Like it's a weird give us your stuff. Yeah, it's like a weird place to be on either side. And then with the whole like Picard being like, we just want to extend our hand of friendship and let you know about the wide world out there. It's very hard to trust him because again, you don't know him and he's been spying on you. It's just kind of, I don't know.
It's not like spying on somebody who's alone and in a hospital. Yes, the Jehovah's Witness thing. It's like
I had thought about it like that. That's great.
Way to establish contact, and I think that's really like what I really struggle with is like, of course they're going to be like a little confused and upset, and maybe they're actually disrupt their timeline with the whole thing.
But also I wonder, like, once they're warp capable, like what would be the time? Like if they, let's say tomorrow they went warp capable, is the Enterprise just going to be hanging out in their eye line when they get out into space? Just like waiting for them to, I don't know. What does that look like? Planet to planet salesman.
Yeah, I think my wife brings up a great question that could really eat up the last 20 minutes of this thing. What are the Federation just space Jehovah's Witnesses and show up and knock on your door and have you heard the good word of the Federation? We're like pretty cool and stuff, and you can be like pretty cool and stuff. I hadn't thought about it that way, but man, they're like their practice of hegemony to bring in more and more people. It is awfully like a cult, and like
a little bit of like
Jehovah's
evangelizing.
Ish. Only that in that like there's an actual benefit.
Yeah,
aside from the shared resources, never go hungry again, never have to use money again. Like I know that lower decks is super goofy, but if a Jehovah's Witness was like, yeah, you never have to pay a bill or go grocery shopping or shop for clothes or work ever again, just join our cult.
Actually, I think a lot of cults do pitch that.
I mean,
a lot of cults do pitch
that. They should. That should be the
but they do
thing.
pitch that.
Not so much the burn in hell if you don't.
Well,
whatever.
I mean, it's the carrot and the stick. That's how motivation works. Like just in general, it's either you're motivated by inspiration or desperation. So, pain and pleasure are just the natural ways to motivate people to take any action. Whether it's do your homework, clean your room, buy a car, like it's like that's just a normal thing. So, and I also would say evangelizing just means like sharing about how good you think something is. So that's not too weird. But I think the thing that maybe the only thing that's a little tricky with the Federation is like they impose upon you the morality that they feel you should have, and they will tell you who the good and bad guys are, right? So it'll be like, now that you're part of us, don't trust the Romulans. You know what I mean? Like it's like they're not a part of us. Do you know what I mean? So the part that I would see that's a little bit, while there is, I love the like no money thing. Yes, all day, please. Yes, I'm all here for all of that, and just like the take care of everything side of Starfleet. But then there's also like how much autonomy is there really? Because what if there's a planet that's just like the Cardassians and would be their perfect ally? Like their values line up. They love all the same things. They watch all the same movies. They listen to the same music. I feel like the Federation
who are raucously misogynistic and exploitative. So it's like their friends and foes are sort of arbitrary depending on their interests. Like they're a political body just like anything else. And I think that has to do with like being as huge as they are with as much territory as they have. But like, yeah, the whole Maquis thing, for example, like one day you're a Federation citizen and the next you're an enemy, and it's like that kind of stuff would definitely keep me up at night.
Yeah.
I think James K brings up a couple of great points here. He's like, yeah, welcome to the Federation. You've got some wars. But something else that you said, I've thought about several times with planets like this that are within Federation space, but even if they become spacefaring, they don't necessarily have to be part of the Federation, but they'll gain the protection of being within that space from like the Cardassians and the Romulans and, you know, other races from taking them over. So it's an interesting dynamic where they can choose their own thing and still kind of get the same amount. It's basically Canada is what I'm saying. Get the protection without having to do much of anything by being in a sphere of influence.
Right, to Norman's point, unless you're Bajor. But I think Bajor was.
Are they
in
like
the neutral
Parrots
zone.
and Phillip?
They were
Do
just
they have
on
like
the
heads
edge.
that like are disconnected from the top half and they laugh about farting like Terrence and Phillip?
I'm not your buddy, guy.
I'm not your guy, friend.
Yeah, I
Okay,
don't think Bajor. Wait a minute, them's fighting words. You guys are funny. I don't think Bajor was in Federation space. I think it was in the neutral zone or something like that.
It was
out on the edge.
Yeah, it was like it's like Deep Space Nine is like way the hell out there. They only cared about it because it had the wormhole, the first stable wormhole ever. So
I'm sorry, Nadia, by the way. I mean, it's just, it is a good analogy, though. I mean, y'all don't have to pay very much and you still get, like ICBM protection because that's how we roll. I'm not saying it's a good thing or bad thing, just that it is a thing.
I'm with Elisa. Maple syrup, yes. Nadia was like,
Correct.
what about our maple syrup? And now that's all I can think about. Yes.
The thing that I love, weird piece of information, there is a strategic Canadian maple syrup reserve.
There is.
I think that's one of the most wonderful pieces of trivia ever.
The show The Sticky is based on an actual heist in which they tried to steal it.
Mm-hmm.
That's wild. James said
with me.
James said as far as Bajor, he says Deep Space Nine, it's in the name. Oh, there it is. Okay. Now we know. It's in deep space.
Still though, Federation does suck for how they handled that.
I don't know that I actually have anything else about this. Go ahead, Scott. Episode.
I was going to say, on the whole, I wasn't thinking Jehovah's Witnesses when you talk about knocking on the doors. The inactive LDS in me, of course, totally went Mormons. Which were also made fun of by South Park.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that lives up to that same kind of.
I feel like it's remarkably similar too, because everyone is really nice. They'll all be very nice to you to your face, but there is some stuff going on underneath that I'm not going to get into here.
Like, there's usually a reason why there's like usually an interest of the Federation that they would invite somebody into the Federation. Like, for example, with Bajor, the wormhole,
like something the Federation can get out of it is what you're saying.
Some kind of resource, some access to something. So
it's not out of kindness.
Right. And it's usually not just, oh, we'll give you this thing and we expect absolutely nothing in return. You're actually going, there's like an expectation that you're sharing your resources with the rest of the Federation. So it's like, which on its face is a good thing, but it's like, what exactly are we talking about?
So this is not about this episode because I feel like I picked all the meat off the bone, but there's an episode of Lower Decks where a planet joins the Federation. And so they're like burning all the money and stuff. And they're like, they're like, sure, take my car. I'll just replicate another one. Woo! Like they're just living their best lives. Bad. Right. But then all the rich people are really upset because they're like, what about our riches? We worked really hard for all this and now it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
And I think
what do you mean they can replicate what I have?
Well, there's also the episode of TNG, which is like the season finale, I think, of 1 or 2, where it's like
neutral.
the rich guy gets unfrozen, and he's like, "Where's my bank account?"
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
Such a
Picard
terrible.
says, "We don't
Give me a
do
copy
that
of the Wall Street
anymore."
Journal.
Yeah, money.
Yes.
It was
He's like, I
Daddy
have so much
Warbucks.
money, and he doesn't anymore. Like, it doesn't even exist. I think that's an interesting concept, and I'm sure there are downsides because money is power. Like, money is economic power. There are things you can do with it. But I really like the idea of like of that transition period. How would mindsets and things shift if like none of that stuff is a problem anymore or a concern? I think it's super interesting.
I'm going to answer James K's question with, could the Federation be like, we're going to inform your populace? I'm going to answer that in 2 ways. Could? Yeah, I mean, you could do anything. If you're one of those TOS captains with a Hitler fixation, you absolutely could. Will Picard? Not under any circumstance. Under Federation law, no. Nope.
Yeah, so Nadia's like, one way mindsets would shift is that healthcare would cease to be a privilege. Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of upsides. Like, in my position, I feel like there's a lot of upsides, but one part of my brain is like, but surely there are downsides. There's got to be lots of downsides you're just not thinking of. There's got to be something that's going to go terribly wrong.
I mean,
can't access that at the moment.
For most of human history, we didn't really use money, and a lot of cultures that have been colonized in the interim between when money was a thing and not, there was barter systems, and the transactions are, 1-to-1. I give you a thing, you give me a thing. But sometimes it's like, well, I don't want that one thing. What else can you give me where I can take it and get something else that I want, kind of thing. But the problem is then it becomes something you can hoard,
The only
so I don't really see a downside other than there's no infrastructure for exploitation any longer.
The only major downside I see is that the mutual defense clause in the Federation Charter about like, so when the Dominion War starts, your people are going to be a couple 100 million of the billions that die.
Yeah. Unfortunate.
Yeah, I'm picturing. Okay, back to what Vanessa said about the barter system. Yes, and monetary, coins and paper, it just makes things more convenient. In that scale. And then you could argue about with replicators, you could replicate anything. And so is anything original, like art or food or, a lot of these specialties, you don't need them anymore. Or even with the rise of AI right now, it's like, oh, you don't need to hire a copywriter. You can just have AI copyright for you or whatever.
There's credits. They have credits for like more luxe items or like specialty stuff where you can't necessarily replicate it. Like credits would be the thing you would buy stuff from Garrick or Romulan Ale or whatever. So like that, the luxury items you can't replicate.
Like in Star Trek Online, there's actually all kinds of currencies, but the primary Federation currency is energy credits. So like, you need, you've got your basic needs met at all times for food and water and shelter. But, do you need, for some particular job, do you need a heavy piece of equipment? You've got to have enough energy credits. Or do you have a business that requires energy and input to make output? And then you collect energy credits from your customers. And that's like how Ben Sisko's dad. That's like, he runs a restaurant. And that's how he gets paid. It's not just a free service because he really likes to cook. There is a payment in the form of energy credits. But could he keep his restaurant without it? Maybe. It's still really unclear how land rights work.
How the exchange system works. Yeah, because with that episode Neutral Zone, Picard goes on he has a whole speech. He gets on a whole soapbox about how we no longer judge ourselves based on what's in our bank account, blah, blah, blah. And he says, now we just work for like our heart's content or whatever. We work because of our passion. You know, it has nothing to do with compensation. And I don't know. It just makes, it's just like it's an interesting thought to be like, you know, I don't know. It's a whole different way for my brain to work, to think that people could be out there creating art or teaching every day or just whatever. And just being like, this is the thing I'm doing just because I love it.
People assume that the only way people will work or work difficult jobs is if you threaten them with poverty. If you threaten people with poverty and being on the wrong side of societal line, that's the only way people will contribute to society. And in fact, Star Trek is a testament. And I think the point of Picard's speech was hard work can be its own reward. We don't need the threat of poverty and destitution to do what we love. And in fact, it frees us to do that.
Yes. The good stuff.
Does anybody else have any final thoughts in the last 5 minutes, or do we just go to an out of 10 on this? Wow, I ranked this episode so highly because I genuinely think that it's a great first episode for people, but man, I guess when it comes down to the nitty-gritty, there's not a lot to talk about. There isn't a lot of meat on this bone,
the gritty,
as you put it, Shereese.
There's only nitty, and it is lacking the gritty.
Too many nooks, not enough crannies. This is totally
that should be a Strange New Worlds episode title next season.
That would be a great Lower Decks episode. I would watch it. I would absolutely watch it. Too many nooks,
not enough crannies. I can totally see Mike McMahon writing that. Oh wow, everybody in chat's already like, okay, I guess we've answered that question. What are we going to? Well, considering I put this in my top 25 out of like all of Star Trek, I am still required to give it like a 9.8. It's not even that it really has problems. Even the stuff with Riker and the like, he gets kind of sexually harassed thing. It's okay. If it was anybody but Riker, it would totally not work at all. But it's at least okay there, so I'm gonna leave some room for margin, but I'm gonna give it a 9.8. Go ahead, Vanessa.
It's okay because it's remarkable Riker didn't ask her first.
Yeah, like I frankly have like the vaguest recollection of watching this actual episode, but it appears to be one of those things where it's like enjoyable. It doesn't need to be, super deep or ethically complicated. This looks like it's adequate. So for that reason, I'm going to give it a 6. It looks fine.
Yeah, this is not one of my favorite episodes. It does have some really good parts though, I think, but it's got some other parts where I'm like, meh. And I was kind of going back and forth while you guys were talking because I was thinking this is the episode where we find out that the phaser has a setting called push, which is really fun. There's like this part where he like picks it up and he just like taps it and just knocks a little IV bag over. And that's just always fun, finding new settings for the phaser. So that makes me want to give it more points just because of that little thoughtful touch. But I think I'll give this one a 6.
I think this is it's a pretty good episode. It's not really in my top TNG episodes, probably just because, I don't know, I think I'm more drawn to like the tragedies and courtroom dramas and the like nonsense filler episodes. But I agree that there's not really anything like wrong with it other than Riker being like coerced by the nurse. I think the political stuff's kind of interesting. I think Dustin's right that it's a good like intro episode to Trek that sets up a lot of the like basic stuff about how the world works in like an easily approached way. I'd say just it for me it feels a little bit lackluster and forgettable when I think of like the best TNG episodes. So I think I'll give it like a 7.5. Like it's in the good section for sure.
Yes, James K, a 9.8. I stand by that.
out of 20, he asks.
No,
No, it's
out of
really
10.
not a bad episode at all. I mean, I do like the way, we kind of get the overview of the Prime Directive. It's nice to see that we have a world leader here who's willing to change his worldview, because he says something in the episode about going from believing like we're supreme. He said I went from believing that we're supreme in the universe to knowing that there's just so many other people out there, and he's okay with it. Although I think he was a little waffling on what he was going to tell his kids. Not that big on the Minister of Defense's xenophobia that, fucks everything up. And Riker and the nurse wasn't that bad for me. I mean, it's not like he was actively like, "Hey, come sleep with me, help me get out of here." You kind of expect that kind of thing from Riker. Women kind of throw it.
King of the honeypot.
Hmm?
Oh, I said the king of the honeypot.
Yeah.
The honeypot king.
All told, I'm not gonna make it a 9. I'll say 8.75.
I thought I was the only one that was going to give it big points. And that's pretty much because I am in absolute love with Carol and Seymour.
That's fair.
She's my
amazing.
favorite female recurring actress in TNG.
And her role was the shining star of this whole episode. Like,
Mm-hmm. This is the one where she really gets to do something different and not just kind of be nasty, which she's actually really good at. Like as a Romulan, and then I mean, my favorite thing that I've ever seen her in is as the evil Leaper's hologram in Quantum Leap. She's amazing in that. That's the first place I ever saw Carolyn Seymour. And
Zoe,
love her in that role. Okay, well, this has been interesting. This was a little more difficult to get through, and especially where it's such a good episode for me. We only had to fill 40 minutes because we spent the first 20 talking about Strange New Worlds.
right?
But this was fun. I'm glad we did this. We'll probably do it again someday. We've got a month and a half off until the 21st of July. We'll see you then to talk about Strange New Worlds and Hegemony Part 2 after 2 full years. But I would like to thank all of my friends here who have joined me today, and to all of you for tuning in. So until we see you again in July, live long and